If you ask most people why they become angry after being insulted, they'll usually give the same answer. Because they disrespected me. It sounds reasonable, doesn't it? After all, no one enjoys being criticized or spoken to harshly. But monks invite us to look one level deeper. They ask a question that can completely change the way you understand yourself. Who inside you was actually hurt? Was it your true self? Or was it your ego? This question may seem simple, but it has the power to transform your entire life. The ego is not always loud or obvious. It doesn't walk around introducing itself. Instead, it quietly builds an identity from everything you believe about yourself. It says, I must always be respected. People should recognize my worth. No one should ever question me. I have to prove that I'm right. Slowly, without realizing it, we begin protecting this invisible version of ourselves every single day. The strange part is that most of our emotional suffering doesn't come from protecting our real self. It comes from protecting an image that exists only inside our minds. Think about it carefully. When someone calls you lazy, why does it hurt? Perhaps because part of you fears it might be true. When someone questions your intelligence, why do you immediately become defensive? Perhaps because your identity has become attached to being seen as intelligent. Every insult searches for a place where the ego has already built a wall. If no wall exists, the words simply pass by. Like the wind, this is why two people can hear the exact same criticism and react in completely different ways. One person becomes furious. The other smiles gently and continues walking. The words were identical. The minds were not. A monk understands that the outside world cannot disturb a peaceful mind as easily as we imagine. Most of the disturbance comes from within. The insult simply reveals what was already waiting beneath the surface. Imagine standing in front of a perfectly clear mirror. The mirror reflects whatever stands before it, but it never argues with the reflection. It never becomes proud when something beautiful appears, and it never becomes ashamed when something unpleasant is reflected. It simply reflects reality as it is. Monks train their minds to become like that mirror. They observe, they notice, they understand, but they don't immediately react. This is why meditation plays such an important role in their lives. Many people believe meditation is about escaping reality or trying to stop every thought. In truth, meditation teaches something much more practical. It teaches you to notice your thoughts without becoming controlled by them. Imagine sitting quietly for a few minutes with your eyes closed. At first, your mind races in every direction. You remember conversations from yesterday. You worry about tomorrow. You replay embarrassing moments from years ago. You plan, judge, compare, and imagine. The mind never seems to stop talking. Most people assume those thoughts are who they are. The monk realizes something different. He understands that if he can observe his thoughts, then he cannot be the thoughts themselves. This realization creates freedom. Suppose someone insults you tomorrow. Before this understanding, your reaction might happen automatically. Anger appears, and within seconds your voice becomes louder. Your heart beats faster. Your face grows tense. You feel the overwhelming need to defend yourself, but awareness changes the sequence. The insult arrives. Anger begins to rise. You notice it. Instead of saying, I am angry, you quietly think, anger is appearing. Do you see the difference? One sentence makes anger your identity. The other simply recognizes it as a temporary. Visitor monks often compare emotions to weather. Some days are sunny, some days are cloudy, some days bring heavy rain. No one believes the sky has been destroyed simply because a storm appeared. They know the storm will eventually pass. Your emotions work exactly the same way. An insult creates a storm. Awareness reminds you that storms never last forever. Without awareness, however, we become the storm itself. The ego loves storms because they give it something to fight. The ego survives on comparison. It constantly measures. Who earns more? Who looks better? Who receives more attention? Who has more followers? Who is more successful? The ego never feels satisfied because there is always someone who seems stronger, wealthier, smarter, or more admired. As long as your happiness depends on winning this endless competition, peace remains impossible. This is why monks step away from the race. Not because success is wrong, not because achievement has no value, but Because they refuse to let their identity depend on temporary things. Imagine building your house on shifting sand. Every wave changes the ground beneath you. No matter how beautiful the house appears, it never feels completely safe. Now imagine building the same house on solid rock. The storms still come, the rain still falls, the wind still blows, but the foundation remains steady. Awareness is that foundation. The ego is shifting sand every day. Monks strengthen this foundation through small, consistent practices. They watch their breathing. They observe their thoughts. They pay attention to how quickly the mind creates stories about other people. They notice how easily pride appears after praise and how quickly insecurity appears after criticism. Little by little, they become less controlled by both. Notice something interesting. Most people are just as attached to compliments as they are hurt by insults. If someone praises them, they feel wonderful. If someone criticizes them, they feel miserable. In both situations, their emotional state depends entirely on another person's opinion. The monk seeks a different kind of freedom. He appreciates kindness without becoming addicted to it. He hears criticism without becoming imprisoned by it. His peace comes from within, not from the changing voices around him. There is an old story about a wise teacher walking through a village. A man began shouting insults, hoping to provoke him into an argument. The teacher listened quietly until the man finally became exhausted. Then the teacher asked gently, "If someone offers you a gift and you choose not to accept it, who does the gift belong to?" The man answered, "It remains with the person who offered it." The teacher smiled and said, "Then I choose not to accept your anger." Whether this story happened exactly as told is less important than the lesson it carries. Every insult is like an unwanted gift. You always have a choice. You can pick it up, carry it for hours, replay it in your mind, and allow it to poison your peace. Or you can leave it where it belongs. That choice is one of the greatest freedoms any human being can discover. Of course, this doesn't happen overnight. Monks spend years practicing because they understand that self-mastery is built through repetition. Every difficult conversation becomes another opportunity to practice patience. Every misunderstanding becomes another lesson in awareness. Every insult becomes another chance to remember that true strength is not found in controlling other people. It is found in controlling yourself. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, pause before speaking. Take one slow breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice the emotions rising inside you without judging them. Then quietly ask yourself, am I about to protect my peace or am I only protecting my ego? That single question can interrupt years of automatic reactions. It creates a small space where wisdom can enter before anger takes control. And in that small space lies the beginning of real freedom, because the strongest person in the room is rarely the one who speaks the loudest. The strongest person is the one who remains calm when everyone else is losing control. In the next section, you'll discover the daily practice monks use to develop this extraordinary inner calm and how you can begin applying it in your own life, one simple moment at a time. Have you ever noticed that the people who speak the loudest are not always the strongest? And have you ever wondered why monks, despite facing criticism, disrespect, and even insults, rarely raise their voices or fight back? At first, it seems impossible to understand. In a world where everyone is eager to defend their image, prove themselves right, and win every argument, choosing silence almost looks like weakness. But what if silence isn't weakness at all? What if it is one of the greatest forms of strength a human being can ever develop? Imagine this for a moment. Someone looks you in the eyes and says something hurtful. Instantly, your heart beats faster. Your mind begins searching for the perfect response. You replay old memories, gather every reason to defend yourself, and within seconds, your peace disappears. Sound familiar? Most people have experienced this countless times. A few careless words from another person can ruin an entire day. Sometimes they even linger in our minds for weeks, months, or years. But now ask yourself a deeper question. Did those words truly have power on their own? Or did they become powerful because your mind accepted them? This single question has fascinated spiritual teachers for thousands of years. Ancient monks discovered something that most of us spend our entire lives chasing without ever realizing it. They understood that no one can place anger inside your heart without your permission. No one can steal your inner peace unless you unknowingly hand it over. The moment you understand this truth, something extraordinary begins to happen. You stop seeing insults as attacks. Instead, you begin seeing them as opportunities to understand your own mind. This is where the real journey begins. Most people believe monks are born calm. They imagine that peaceful people simply have gentle personalities or easy lives. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Monks are not peaceful because life has been kind to them. They are peaceful because they have spent years training their minds to respond differently. They have learned something the modern world rarely teaches. Every reaction has a cost. Every angry response costs you energy. Every argument costs you peace. Every attempt to prove yourself steals your attention from the life you truly want to build. Think about the last time someone criticized you unfairly. Perhaps it was a friend, a family member, a colleague, or even a stranger online. Maybe the conversation lasted only 2 minutes, but your mind kept replaying it all day. You imagined different replies. You wished you had said something smarter. You kept reliving the moment long after the other person had forgotten it. Who suffered longer? Probably you. This is exactly what monks observe with great honesty. They understand that suffering often continues long after the event itself has ended. The insult may last only a few seconds, but the story we tell ourselves afterward can continue for days. One Buddhist teacher once compared the human mind to someone carrying a burning coal. We believe we are holding the coal to throw it at someone else, but until we release it, our own hand continues to burn. Anger works in exactly the same way. We believe our anger punishes the other person, when in reality it quietly drains our own peace. This realization changes everything. Imagine carrying a cup filled to the very edge with water. If someone accidentally bumps into you, what spills out? Only what was already inside. If the cup contains water, water spills. If it contains tea, tea spills. If it contains coffee, coffee spills. Human beings are no different. When someone insults you, whatever is already inside your heart comes pouring out. If your mind is full of insecurity, insecurity appears. If it is filled with pride, pride reacts. If it is filled with fear, fear takes control. But if your heart has been trained in patience, wisdom begins to appear instead. This is why monks don't spend years learning clever responses to insults. They spend years changing what lives inside them. Most of us spend our lives trying to control other people's behavior. We wish they were kinder. We wish they understood us better. We wish they appreciated us more. But monks ask a completely different question. Instead of asking, "How do I make others respect me?" they ask, "How do I become someone whose peace cannot be controlled by anyone?" Can you feel the difference? One question depends on the outside world. The other transforms the inside world. Modern society teaches us that our worth depends on recognition. More followers, more praise, more success, more approval. We become addicted to validation without even noticing it. Slowly, our emotional state begins depending on how other people see us. The monk quietly walks away from this invisible prison. Not because praise is bad, not because success is wrong, but because anything that controls your emotions eventually controls your life. This doesn't mean monks never feel pain. They do. They experience disappointment, sadness, loneliness, and even moments of frustration just like everyone else. The difference is not that they never feel emotions. The difference is that they don't become servants of those emotions. There is a beautiful image often used in meditation. Imagine sitting beside a river. Leaves float past on the surface of the water. Some are beautiful, some are broken, some move quickly, others drift slowly. Do you jump into the river to chase every leaf? Of course not. You simply watch them pass. Monks learn to treat thoughts in exactly the same way. An insult arrives, a thought appears. Anger begins knocking on the door. Instead of immediately opening that door, they pause, they breathe, they observe. They allow the emotion to rise without letting it become their identity. This tiny space between stimulus and response becomes their greatest strength. For most people, there is no space. Someone insults, them. They react instantly. Someone disagrees with them. They become defensive. Someone ignores them. They assume rejection. Everything happens automatically. Monks interrupt this automatic cycle. They understand that freedom begins the moment awareness enters the conversation. Have you ever watched the sky after a storm? Dark clouds eventually disappear. The sky itself never disappears. Your awareness is like that sky. Your emotions are like passing clouds. The problem is that most people mistake themselves for the storm. Monks remember they are the sky. That simple shift changes how they experience life. Another reason monks rarely react to insults is because they understand something. Surprisingly practical, people usually speak from their own level of awareness. A person filled with anger naturally spreads anger. A person consumed by jealousy sees enemies everywhere. Fearful person often criticizes others to feel safe. An insecure person may insult confident people simply because confidence reminds them of what they believe they lack. When monks hear harsh words, they quietly ask themselves, what pain might this person be carrying? Notice how different that question feels. Instead of creating another enemy, it creates understanding. Understanding does not always remove pain, but it prevents unnecessary hatred. This doesn't mean allowing abuse. It doesn't mean accepting disrespect. Healthy boundaries remain important. Walking away from unnecessary conflict is not weakness. Choosing peace is not surrender. Sometimes, the strongest sentence you can ever speak is no sentence at all. Sometimes silence communicates more dignity than 100 angry words. As you continue watching, you'll discover that this silence is not empty. It is filled with awareness, confidence, and extraordinary self-control. In the next part, we'll uncover the hidden battle between the ego and awareness, and why understanding this invisible conflict explains almost every emotional reaction we have.